Everyone thought it was just another tattoo, until the SEAL commander stopped mid-step, his face turning pale, whispering, "That mark hasn't been seen since the fall of Blackwater. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. It was supposed to be a quiet morning at Fort Harrison's training grounds. The sky stretched wide and golden, the sound of boots hitting dirt echoing across the open field. But when she walked in, silence followed. Lieutenant Sarah Dean, the only woman in the new combat unit. Rumors had already spread. Some said she pulled strings to get here. Others said she'd washed out of another unit and was being recycled. Either way, the men were ready to test her or break her. And then someone saw it. Sarah stretched before drills. Her combat shirt lifted slightly, revealing the edge of a tattoo. It wasn't just ink. It was etched, deep and deliberate, a black and silver symbol shaped like wings with 3 lines slashing through them. Private Langley squinted and snorted. "What the hell is that on your back, Lieutenant? You planning to scare us with art?" The others laughed. Even the instructor smirked, but Sarah didn't answer. She just adjusted her shirt and tightened her grip on the rifle strap. Her jaw set like stone. Langley pushed further. "Come on, show us. What's it mean?" "Butterfly Brigade." The laughter grew louder, echoing off the barracks walls. Even the wind seemed to join in, until a voice cut through it. "Enough." The words came from behind them, low, calm, commanding. Everyone turned. Commander Hayes, a man with 20 years of SEAL service, stood at the edge of the field. The sunlight caught the gray streaks in his hair and the sharp lines around his eyes. He walked toward them slowly, his gaze locked on Sarah. When he reached her, the air changed. No one spoke. No one even breathed. "Dean," he said quietly, "turn around." Sarah hesitated but obeyed. She pulled her shirt up just enough for the tattoo to show. The commander froze. For a heartbeat, no one understood why. But the silence, his silence, was heavier than any shout. His hand trembled slightly as he lifted it toward the mark, but stopped short of touching it. "Where did you get this?" he asked. Her answer came softly. "Operation Blackwater, sir." 2016, Langley frowned. "What's that?" Hayes turned his head sharply, his voice now like gravel. "That," he said, "was an operation that never made it to the news. 12 went in. Only 2 came out." Murmurs rippled through the soldiers. The teasing was gone now, replaced by unease. Sarah's eyes darkened as old memories flashed behind them. "The tattoo wasn't a choice," she whispered. "It was given to the survivors." Hayes looked at her with something between recognition and sorrow. "You were there with Commander Reeves?" She nodded. "He didn't make it out." The field went dead silent again. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Later that evening, as the sun sank behind the training hills, the soldiers gathered around the mess hall. No one laughed now. They whispered instead, about the woman who bore a mark the commander himself revered. Langley sat alone, guilt creeping into his face. He replayed the moment, his cruel words burning in his mind. And Sarah? She sat outside, watching the horizon. Her hands were still, but her mind raced. Why had Hayes reacted like that? Why look so haunted? Then she heard the crunch of boots behind her. "May I?" Hayes asked, gesturing to the empty bench beside her. She nodded. For a long while, neither spoke. The hum of the bass was faint in the distance. Finally, he said, "Reeves was my brother." Her head turned sharply. "Your brother?" Hayes exhaled, the kind of breath that carried years of grief. "I thought the mark was gone with him, that no one survived except the rumor." "I almost didn't," Sarah replied. He saved me, told me to run before the second blast." The commander's eyes glistened in the fading light. "Then you're the reason his story didn't die out there." She swallowed hard. "No one believed me. They said Blackwater never happened. They said I made it up to cover a failed mission." Hayes clenched his fists. "They were wrong. I was there when the orders came through. Classified, buried, erased. But the truth lives on your back." A gust of wind carried dust between them, swirling like ghosts. The next morning, something had shifted. When Sarah walked into training, every soldier stood a little straighter. Langley stepped forward, eyes low, and said quietly, "Lieutenant, I owe you an apology." Sarah met his gaze, calm but firm. "Apologies don't change the past, Private, but learning from it does." The words hit harder than any reprimand. From that day, the team began to change. Sarah led drills with silent precision. The same men who mocked her now followed her lead. Slowly, respect replaced ridicule. But the true test came 2 weeks later. A storm rolled across the valley during a live training operation. High winds, low visibility, a flash flood warning on the comms. When the lower ridge gave way, 2 soldiers were swept into a ravine. Panic hit the ranks. Form a line, Sarah shouted over the roar of the wind. Her voice cut through the chaos. We move now. Without hesitation, she dove into the mud, securing ropes, coordinating rescue points like muscle memory. The commander watched from the ridge, his heart pounding. Her movements were exactly like Reeves's. Every signal, every command, pull on my mark. She yelled. 3, 2, 1 now. The team heaved in unison. The rope went taut, cutting through the rain. One soldier emerged, coughing and soaked, pulled from the rising current. Second man still down. Someone screamed. Sarah didn't wait. She clipped herself in and went over the edge. The ravine swallowed her. The water was icy, violent, deafening. But she kept pushing forward, hand over hand, until she found him. Unconscious, trapped under a fallen branch. Her muscles screamed as she hauled him free. The rope jerked. The current pulled. For a second, it seemed they'd both be lost. Then the commander's voice thundered through the comms. Everyone pull. Now, dozens of hands gripped the line, boots digging into the mud, bodies straining against the storm. The rope moved, inch by inch, until 2 figures broke through the surface. Sarah and the soldier tumbled onto solid ground, gasping. The men swarmed around her, shouts turning into cheers. Hayes knelt beside her, rain mixing with tears on his face. You did it, he said, just like Reeves would have. Sarah managed a weak smile. He taught me everything I know. In the days that followed, the mark on her back became something else. Not a mystery, not a scar, but a badge of honor. When the commander gathered the unit for debrief, he looked at his men one by one. You all saw what leadership looks like, he said. It's not about rank, gender, or medals. It's about courage when everything falls apart. He turned to Sarah. You earned more than respect here, Lieutenant. You restored a legacy. The room filled with quiet nods. Langley was the first to clap. Then another joined. Soon, the entire hall echoed with applause. That Sarah's eyes glistened, but she stood tall. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not as a rumor, not as a survivor, but as a soldier who carried history on her skin. Because courage doesn't fade, it echoes through those strong enough to carry it forward. And sometimes, the marks we bear aren't reminders of pain, but proof that we endured what others could not. If this story moved you, tell me where you're watching from and hit subscribe, because more stories like this one are on the way. Stories of resilience, redemption, and the quiet heroes who walk among us.